So we're seeing, you mentioned about a theme of economic sovereignty and how we can strengthen that on that front. And in the last committee meeting, we were talking about how the Liberals established the Strategic Innovation Fund, and they spent tens of $millions on, they're writing checks to foreign companies that are multinational companies. MasterCard was one of them. And while at the same time we have a startup ecosystem in Canada that's starving of capital, and that could use some of that tens of millions of dollars, billions of dollars every year that they fund. How do we make sure that that money goes to Canadian companies and that Canadians are going to be benefiting from the use of those tax dollars?
Thank you for the question. First of all, it's important to be able to also work with multinationals, and we need multinationals. You know, obviously in Canada, they're a part of the innovation ecosystem, so there's nothing wrong with having a place for multinationals. However, we need to have mechanisms to make sure that, especially our SMEs, we're a nation of SMEs, there is a mechanism to get the intellectual property out of public research towards SMEs where there could be an opportunity to do that. So, and of course, startups have their place as well. Much higher risk when you talk about startups because there's so many other factors that could influence their survival. So is there a reflex to look within the Canadian geography market? Are there existing SMEs that could put to use the fruits of this invention, of this research? Have we structured the intellectual property well? And do we have a mechanism to get it to those SMEs? So there should be a prioritization to look at when there was public dollars. Do we first consider an SME who is the fabric of the nation, and then there's maybe an opportunity for a startup if we feel like there's a place for that startup in the Canadian ecosystem, in the Canadian market, and then if not, well, then there's nothing wrong with considering working with a multinational.